Hi everyone. So for this one, I ran a regression to see whether customers' annual income affects how much they spend. The result from this showed a very strong relationship. Our R squared was about 79%, which means income explains about almost 80% of the incomes difference in customer spending. In other words, income is one of the biggest factors that predicts how much a customer will buy. The coefficient for income was about 0.21. That means for every $1 increase in annual income, spending goes up by about 21 cents. Then our p-values in the model were extremely small, which tells us this relationship is real and not random, and the model overall is very strong. For this chart, it compares the average monthly purchase and return rate across the 5 regions. In every region, the return rate is higher than the amount customers are spending. The North has the highest purchasing activity, but also has a high return. The East and South show the same pattern with returns above purchases. Central and West have the lowest numbers overall, but returns are still high there too. Um, when when tallying all these up, customers spend about a little over $9,000, but they also return over $10,000. The bars in the chart make this clear and help you see it easier. Um, Overall, this probably suggests that this company is facing product or satisfaction issues that are causing these high returns, and we need to figure that out. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christian Davis. For my portion of our final project, I'm looking at two determinants that correlate specifically to annual customer spend. So for my first correlation that I found, we made a band of age range. We did 25 to 39, as you can see, 40 to 59, and 60 plus. And I wanted to cross that with the different regions that we had available to see what age groups in which regions spent the most annually. Uh, and as you can see, 40 to 59 spent the most by far annually. The central region had the highest overall with 1.5 million, and the west region had the least overall with only 66,000. I thought it was really interesting how much less the 60 plus region or the 60 plus age range spent versus the 25 to 39 age range, just because um, when you're 60 plus getting close to retirement, you assume more money to spend on the luxuries of life, but these numbers actually show differently. So I think we should focus our tactics towards that middle age group of 40 to 59. As you can see in the pivot chart or the pivot table, that all the regions were green for that age range, and it's the only age range to have all green regions, as well as the grand total for that age range was triple what the second highest was, which was 6.3 million, with the second highest being a little over 2 million. And then the second determinant I have here is how many monthly purchases uh, each customer spend group had by payment method. So you in the columns here, it says high, low, lower mid, mid, and upper mid. These are categorical groups that we use to classify how much the average spend of each customer was. And I wanted to see what that looked like for each payment method. I thought it was very interesting how the high level uh, customers didn't use PayPal. So maybe that's something where high spending customers, maybe they're older than 25 to 49, and they don't use PayPal. More credit and debit, uh, and I think that could be kind of you could kind of see that with the low and lower mid. You have 20 there, whereas the high you have 0. So maybe we try to focus on debit and credit users and pushing those things.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charles Stein, and today I'll be presenting an analysis over the key determinants of annual customer spend and just looking at how the continuous and categorical variables influence purchasing behavior. So as you can see from the chart and the pivot table, I analyzed the three main age groups: 25 to 39, 40 to 59, and then 60 plus. And basically using that, I wanted to see what their annual income was and basically just kind of compare that to how much uh, their sum of their monthly purchases or their average monthly purchases. So as you can see, the age range 25 to 39 has the lowest average annual income with around $57,000 or 57,000. 40 to 59 has an average annual income of about $72,000, and then 60 plus has the highest with $96,000. However, income alone is not the best representation of who spends the most money. And when you look at our pivot table and our chart, you can clearly see that the 40 to 59 age group spends quite a few has quite a few more average monthly purchases. Basically, this tells us that the age range is a significant predictor of spending. It's just kind of like how you were raised and what you grew up on. And as you can see, based on the chart and everything, that the middle age group, while they don't make the most money, they definitely can have a livable wage for sure, but they definitely do spend the most. And that kind of makes sense because if you look at the age groups, that's probably when they're going to have children, and like they're going to be paying for college, things like that. So that's probably why that they have the most average monthly purchases, as well as just the millennial people. I think that they like to spend a lot of money, kind of like the Gen Z. If the Gen Z age range was on here, I bet that they would be another high average monthly purchases, but they probably would not have the highest annual income. So basically, like I said, the age range is the biggest predictor of spending, and the 60 plus age group, while they are the wealthiest, they have they have the lowest actual average monthly purchases. So basically, that the saying of younger people aren't the smartest with their money kind of reigns true here. And basically just with our chart and our pivot tables, that reflects the information that I was uh, assuming as well. So with all that being said, thank you very much, and thank you. Yeah, bye.
Okay, to conclude the presentation a little bit, first, Joey started us off with the regression interpretation and just some comparisons about income, how those coefficients, that R squared place value, and then we saw that our p-values were less than that desired amount so that we could actually do this comparison. Joey then showed us this graph that compared purchases with return rate. You can see here that by region, there's not really a region that has a huge difference. Then Christian kind of moved on to that annual customer spending, created this bar chart, and then this nicely conditional formatted layout where you can see that 40 to 59 did the most spending. And then slide 4, Christian also compared those average monthly purchases from each payment method. One thing, he made an important note about how his PayPal was not a source, like it seemed that many people did not use PayPal, especially in that high band. There's not even a number for that. And then Charles just showed us a little bit about the annual count, and then average monthly purchases again. And then I'm just going to kind of conclude with scatter plots that show this data because these are the easiest for me to look at personally. So that first one is just annual customer spending versus income, obviously linear positive. You can see the line a little bit that I put in there. And then that second one is spending versus monthly website visits. So again, the more often at the bottom that someone visited a website, the more likely they were to spend more. I do better when I look at these simple comparisons between two variables rather than analyzing a huge correlation, bar chart, whatever it might be. So that's again what I did on the right side was household size compared to average customer spending. Obviously, a bigger house, more spending. Like, those are easy for me to analyze. Region, that one didn't really matter. They were all relatively similar. Yeah, it looks like North stands out, but they're all pretty close. And then again, age range, spending was again interesting.